Okay. There you
Okay.
go.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Project Wake Meditation School. And today our guest speaker is Vanessa from France, who is meditation trainer, biohacker, and also nutrition and health practitioner. So today she will share a bit more about all of these interesting topics. So yes, hello Vanessa.
Hi, thank you for this nice introduction. Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. Actually, we're kind of meeting Gundega and I on three topics because she's too humble to share it, but she's also a little bit of a biohacker too. So that gives us a lot of interesting conversations. And very often, surprisingly, a lot of meditators are also into tracking and optimizing their health in various ways, which meditation is one of them, actually, to be honest. So glad to talk about it.
Thank you for joining today.
My
So
pleasure.
my first question is, could you share a bit more about your personal journey with both meditation and also biohacking?
Sure. My story is a bit long because just like you, Gundega, I was not set to fall into this totally different planet of meditation, even as a teacher. I never ever thought that I would do that once. And biohacking happened by accident. I fell sick. Sorry. I was pretty young, actually. I was 29 when the first symptoms happened. I didn't go to the doctor like most people do. And within pardon me, within 3 years, I was really sick. I had mobility issues, pains all over. I couldn't explain it. I was dismissing it very simply. I loved my job. I was extremely active. I would say probably hyperactive now. But I didn't see the problem, actually. That was my life. That was the way I was brought up. That was the way everybody was behaving I was in finance, so everything went fast. And I loved it. And what I tend to say to patients now and consultants is that burnout doesn't necessarily shows. It doesn't tell you you're burning out, be careful. It doesn't give you necessarily signs of distress and pain or sadness. Sometimes you love what you're doing and you're doing it a little bit more than your nervous system allows. And that was about 10 years ago. It took me a while to figure out what happened. It took me a long time, a bit like meditation. There's a part of resistance, and then at some point you realize that there's not other options. There's no other options for you to find out and feel better. In Japanese wisdom, they call that the Kensho moment. And here in Europe, everybody's um, pretty actively thinking about things, trying to perform, trying to master and control. And Kensho actually breaks that down. There's a point where the pain is too much, and obviously there is no control possible by the individual. And this is where they surrender. And this is the first step, where while about meditation or about biohacking or health in general. And then finally, they open up to, and this is where it's common with meditation or any mindfulness practice and health. We finally open up to many other things, just like this beautiful sort of background. And we realize it's quite beautiful and it's quite nourishing, and we never saw it despite being in it before. So, age 32, I started understanding the basics of a human body with a bit more humility than probably a few years before. I was also expecting the medical system to take care of me, to save me, technically. Just like all patients, I'm not well, please treat me. And that's not how it works. The way it works is by inner changes and efforts. But we don't know what to do and we don't know where to go at the beginning. So it's a long journey and definitely a very humbling one. And 10 years after that, I was healed totally. I had Lyme disease, which can have neurological heavy symptoms, including cognition loss, extreme confusion, loss of normal stamina. We call that the chronic fatigue syndrome. And at some point, I mastered all that. I changed my lifestyle, which is 80% of the work, by the way. Lifestyle is what we call epigenetics in medicine. And we truly, the patient, the person, is the main actor in this. We need advices. We can't figure out everything on our own. just like with meditation, we need guidance. It's a inner personal practice, but without guidance, we're not going really much further, and it will take us a lifetime to actually find out how to what we call surpassing the obstacles in meditation. And that's the same with biohacking techniques. So today, after 10 years, about 8 years, I actually launched a health firm, but that was very simple. And a lot of people kept on asking me advices and help, and I was not qualified. So COVID happened. I started a training, which is an automolecular biochemistry training, which usually is used by doctors who do realize that their pretty extensive training does not cover the lifestyle part and the ancestral medicine. And yeah, I got graduated and started having my first consultant, and that was pretty incredible. It takes a lot of work personally, which is where we lose a lot of people. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they realize after 1 year that, yeah, they're gonna do the work. But the first reaction for everyone, including myself at first, is, oh, no, I'm not gonna change my sleep, my diet, my physical exercise, not every single week, not 3 times a week, not for a lifetime. We're all trying to find the magic pill. And it's just a question of time before we realize there's no magic pill. And meditation is kind of the same. Every single meditator, I just saw our two favorite monks last week, falls out. They actually stop for whatever life reason. For me, that was government taxes the last few months. And every single time we feel this, how to define it? Maybe you have the words for that. Some kind of vibration, vibrational or simply happiness drop in our life. And what's incredible with human nature is that we keep on falling on the same obstacles sometimes to keep on realizing that, yes, indeed, we're falling and we should have our eyes open and maintain the practices. So in some way, biohacking is a scary word for most people because they think it's hacking, like, but truly it means bio life. Hacking means optimization. So we do know, for example, that drinking lemon in the morning is the best thing you can do for your vitamin C. Better than taking pills, better than, and we just choose the fastest option, basically a bit like this palm tree, the one that rises fastest. So we can reach our goals in the most efficient way. And sometimes we need literature. I mean, most of the time we need literature, we need clinical trials to know that matcha is about 800 times more potent than green leaves. And this was kind of felt and seen before by ancestral medical practitioners in all countries, but we never had the proof. Today we have the proof. And this is what I do. This is my favorite studies. That's why I actually enrolled. And we have the technical ability to face the medical world with the same tools and talking the same language, which is pretty incredible because ultimately we do a work that no doctors can finish and get done in 45 minutes at best, 20 minutes most of the time, and we need each other. So this is it. And to just conclude this part, what I did realize pretty much 3 years after starting to operate and work in that field as a medical health practitioner was that no matter how much we can treat the person, pills, lifestyle changes, if they do not know how to control their mind, which is a technique we don't have in Europe, then what happens is that they stress themselves. We can give them whatever, I don't know, even GABA, which is the tranquility hormone, to help them calm their mind. But it's a question of self-practice. They stress themselves out. There are tools, which are meditative tools, for example, mindfulness tools, yoga in many instances, swimming, water calms down. It's a yin element that are necessary. And meditation, in my view, in my practice, is the most open practice because it's non-religious, it's not scary, it doesn't put you in a situation where someone could bring you to a sectarian uh, situation with a community that, I mean, there's no danger here, absolutely no danger. And systematically, it never, I don't know for you, Gundega, but it never failed to calm my mind. Not once. Even when you come in feeling, okay, it's never gonna work today. I'm too hectic, I'm too stressed, I'm too, I don't know, pissed off, sad. It never ever failed to calm me. What about you?
Yes, I would say it's the same that the positive effects I feel from meditation is what keeps me motivated to continue my practice every day, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so free and it's so easy that it's almost boring for the level of efficiency. Maybe if it had a price tag, people would meditate more because they would tell themselves, oh my God, this thing is amazing. It costs this amount, but I'm receiving so many benefits from it. I'm gonna treat myself. But because it's free, it's like we diminish its value. Um, yeah, maybe we should bill people 1,000. I'm joking, but yeah, yeah, it works.
Okay. And if you look at meditation from a biohacking perspective, what is science behind it and what happens when we meditate regularly?
Oh, excellent question. Uh, that's my favorite part of my job to translate what happens. So technically, in the human body, we have two messengers of stress. The first one is calcium. Actually, a muscle is made of calcium and magnesium. Most uh, of human fascia are working with muscles, and calcium is what tenses the muscle, and magnesium is what relaxes. So those two minerals need to work hand in hand 50-50. What happens when we get stressed, as you do know, as everyone knows, is that your body gets tense and your muscles are ready to go in fight or flight. Fight or flight, well, there's plenty of explanations here, but fight or flight is fascinating because utterly we are primitive beings. You and I, everybody else. And we are reptilian by nature. We need to run away in case of danger. The human body knows that. And what I've realized even before my studies is that, and this is the beautiful thing, it also recoups with meditation, which is also access to the higher self and the higher ground, even though we don't call it anything. We call it dharma or dharma, the nature in itself. Is that the human body is so much more clever than we'll ever be. Our brains can comprehend a tiny fraction. I would say, it's impossible to quantify, but I would say out of a figure, less than 1%. And when we are in fear, in tension, calcium is sent in all the cells and releases magnesium excess, which is the relaxation mineral. So calcium is excreted from the cell, sent into the blood. And as you do know, the liver's job is to identify if there are any excesses inside the bloodstream that could put us in danger. And what happens then straight away is that excess anything, so excess magnesium, which by definition is the mineral that everyone is deficient about, to have at a figure, to have enough magnesium in the body through diet, you would need about 4,000 calories of legumes, which is beans. Even an Indian person cannot do that. So 4,000 calories of beans, you and I would get really big really fast. And we would probably not assimilate enough magnesium. So by definition, everybody's already magnesium deficient every single day. An essential mineral or vitamin is something that should be brought from the outside to the inside of the human being. So already that means you're below your RDA, which by definition will bring you into more tension, calcium, than magnesium. So the osmosis is already not balanced. When you're stressed, fight or flight, excretion of magnesium in the blood, more calcium pushed into the cell, so more tension, and it becomes a self-amplification process. You get more stressed because the stress reaction makes you excrete magnesium, which is the only thing that could calm you down. So by definition, and you will not assimilate in that moment magnesium. I mean, only you and I are taking magnesium pills when we feel stressed, and sometimes we don't even have it. Most people don't know about this. And the calcium would make you more stressed. So that's the first reaction. And then the second chemical reaction is more adrenaline in the cells. All that brings you into the realm of neurotransmission. In the human body, you have two paths of neurotransmission. The first one is action, a bit like in a car. So you have the accelerating pedals, which are all the action neurotransmission. It starts with tyrosine, then dopamine, then adrenaline, and it goes from awareness to motivation to getting into action to finishing. This is the neurotransmission action path. For this to work, which is rarely the case in nowadays society, even children now have Ritalin. Ritalin will actually help the dopamine to maintain its presence in the cells and stay concentrated when the person cannot anymore. So there's already a deficiency on that, if you want, on this accelerator neurotransmission. And what we have realized, and that's the second thing, is that on top of the fight or flight reaction that we were talking about, pushing more calcium in the cells, what we have realized on the neurotransmission path is that the reason why you can get concentrated is because you have enough relaxation in your body the rest of the time. And that most people don't know. So technically, if we come back to the car, the fact that you have a good brake and that you quite often slowing down is the reason why you can accelerate and memorize and get concentrated and motivated and finish the tasks. So what you see nowadays, which is pretty fascinating from a neurotransmission point of view, but pretty sad on the level of humanity, is that people are less concentrated than 20, 30 years ago. We're losing IQ worldwide. We know that. And the reason why it's happening most probably is because attention is triggered all the time to the point we don't calm our bodies and our minds down. And to come back to meditation, this is by definition what meditation does. The first step as an instructor, is to relax the body. So we already working on the calcium magnesium balance without even knowing. I'm not even sure Monk John, who's our favorite trainer, knows these technicalities. He's fascinated, but I don't think we ever talked about it. So by definition, we're already replenishing the mineral balance by breathing and relaxing our body, which is technically what you would do. Relax your jaw, relax your forehead, and then the rest of the body. Already we calming down the mineral imbalance by doing that. And this calming path of neurotransmission is the one of serotonin, the hormone of happiness, which is necessary and the precursor to melatonin, the hormone of sleep. So to have good sleep, you need to be relaxed. You need to feel happy and tranquil. And there's another bypass product of this, which is called GABA. I already talked about it, which is typical between two biohackers. We talk about GABA within 3 minutes of saying hi. And GABA also needs minerals and vitamins in balance, especially B6. So all those are details that you should leave to your practitioner. You don't have to memorize all that. At the beginning, I tried to share it with all my consultants and patients, and I just realized that no, it's a full-time job. They will not understand. This is why they come to me. The same way I don't want to understand all the mechanics of my car, even if my mechanic is super passionate, and fascinated by cars. So each to their jobs. That's perfect. So on that side of the neurotransmission of relaxation, by definition, meditation brings you to a level of serotonin. And I don't know about you, but I never ever failed to feel this aha moment, eureka moment after 35 to 40 minutes. And even when I think it's never going to happen today because I'm too stressed. No, 45, 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, there's this moment where probably, and you and I will never get the full science of it. That's frustrating, but this is the truth. You fall to a point of calm. Sometimes I feel like it's a bit like water brewing herbs, like they go at the bottom, it gets steep, and then you see the whole picture clearly. And this moment of, in my case at least, and I know it's been shared by many meditators, of delicious feeling. Have you had that? Without food, obviously. I love chocolate, not too much, you can see it. But there's this moment of deliciousness, which is by definition the rise of serotonin reserves inside your brains. What is necessary to understand is that stress stops serotonin straight away. Serotonin is created in the stomach and it rises to the brain-blood barrier with great difficulty. It's about 4% of the amino acids. Amino acid means proteins. Um, Same story. They are essential. We need to have them from outside to inside. That's the biochemistry definition of essential. It means external element should be brought inside the human being. That's an essential product. And serotonin can be created in the stomach. We can also eat it, but through tryptophan. But that's another story, which oats can bring. But if you're stressed, it doesn't pass through this part, the brain-blood barrier. And if you eat meat in the same time or get stressed, it's so light and so fragile as an amino acid that it gets kicked out. So it doesn't rise. So what happens during meditation, we don't fully know, but what I do feel as someone who specializes in that field, in both fields, is that clearly the level of adrenaline calms down. Serotonin is no longer in competition with the other amino acids, and it can finally rise to the brain, which is the most difficult thing. About 4% of amino acids are serotonin. The way we actually define it quite a lot is a bit like a bottleneck. Like you have all that. Okay, now it's lost at the sea. You have all that water competing to get through the brain. All the amino acids of meat, for example, leucine, valine, isoleucine, are going through quite easily. But serotonin is competing with all the rest through this very tiny bottleneck, and sometimes it's even tinier. So if you don't leave your body at peace, truly, and move into the nervous system of calm, there's no chance it's gonna go up. And this is creating seriously depression. Depression, by definition, on a biochemistry level, is no more reserves of serotonin coming through the brain because it's compromised in the stomach or because it's in constant competition with the other amino acids. And I think I should stop there because there's so much to say. But another thing that is essential to finish, because then that would be three. So calcium magnesium competition system, which is osmosis, neurotransmission, being stuck in the on mode. Meditation brings you back there in the balance or on the other side, which literally could prevent ADHD. That's what we're talking about. And there are all the elements which make it worse. The danger in all practitioners is to think that their field commands everything. And that's another thing meditation brings you and I, is that it makes us more humble. I mean, if we talk to our favorite person, Monk John, and the other teachers we have, they will see the power in meditation on everything. I also see the limitation of biochemistry. So both are in function, but what is important to say to finish this is that in the brain, there's an element here on the left side called locus cerealis. Cerealis, sorry, pardon my French, means blue waters. Actually, in France, there's this place called La Côte d'Azur, which are this color. That's the color of the sea. And there's an area here which has cyanure in it, and this is literally the gate to your brain. So, for example, Gundega is an incredibly intelligent woman, which is very true. But if you freak her out, if you put her in danger, especially being a super calm and kind being, we usually don't have very violent responses. So we are prone to non-preservation, non-defense, because we're supposed to be more evolved than that, and we chose a different path. But if you put Gundega in danger, there are high chances, I would say 99% chances, that you will not have access to any creativity, any intuition, any intelligence, any problem-solving analysis of the situation. And this is how a lot of people actually are using fear, provocation, bullying to control others. And all of that happens on a subconscious level. When you use meditation, whether it's you or the other people in front of you, whether they're good people or evil, which we see in I'm Buddhist, Gundega is not, but one of the first rules we have is to stay away from people who unconsciously do evil or consciously, same story. But when you put all these people in a room, no matter where they're coming from, no matter how many mistakes they're making, they all come down one grade. And that allows all people to rise in consciousness and IQ level and have better, problem solving analysis, comprehension, compassion. And compassion, the Dalai Lama was saying, compassion is not an option, it's an absolute necessity for the species survival. And I think it's true. I think tolerance and compassion are very crucial, done in the right way, which is always preserving yourself and making yourself happy. That's what meditation and Buddhism taught me, to be honest. Here in the world, in the Western world, we tend to go full on saving, loving everyone despite the risks to themselves, or hating each other, which sometimes comes out of lucidity because you've been disappointing by 90% of people. In my understanding, this is the normal way of life. That's what we call the 40 years old crisis. We finally see clear. Meditation also allows us to see clear. And sometimes it's not very nice because we can see clear about ourselves and our flaws, but also about others. And when you actually use this relaxation technique, it allows you to be compassionate towards people who did wrong things, but not kicking them out totally, because otherwise individualism is the solution and it's humanity's destruction. And we're there. I mean, in my view, that's my personal view, not my professional view, we are reaching an era of individualism to such extent that it's going to damage the human species. And we can see it, that's another one of our favorite topics, but women, by definition, voluntarily, because of all these issues, bringing the fecundity rate to a point where humanity does not reproduce itself. I mean, it's that simple. So I don't think meditation or mindfulness or yoga or walking in the forest to calm your nervous system down is an option. And to just finish with this, the neurosystem, we have two neurosystems, neuroparasympathetic and the neurosympathetic, which is the flight or fight response. I'm being attacked, I'm running. I have no access to my brain, just the tension in my muscle to allow me to run. Primitive reaction. And the parasympathetic neurosystem is where even immunity is rebuilt. That's where your intelligence is rebuilt through the neurons, reproduction. And today, when we take Ritalin, we actually totally dismissing the fact that all those reconstructions, okay, we need the right elements and ingredients, sometimes there's supplementation needed, but they happen only when we're calm. And that's the paraneurossympathetic system. And if you didn't have a good sleep, if you're not calm, if you don't have tools to calm yourself when life pushes you to the edges, then this mode is never activated and you can fall into diseases, real pathologies. So voilà.
That was very, very interesting to hear. And actually, I have experienced this personally with about serotonin and melatonin balance. That when I had insomnia, what helped me was changing the environment, getting sun, good emotions, and then suddenly I could fall asleep. And before
Yeah.
that, like nothing helped me.
Yeah. And this is one of my favorite topics these days. Actually, we're talking about how society, through the obsession of individualism and perfectionism, professionalism, pushes you to a situation where we don't have the right human connections. We're a social animal. And without this, we cannot function. End of story. No calm, no love, no relaxation, no safety, no brain. And everybody's today trying to get the right car, the right mortgage, the right kids. This is not the primitive necessities of life. And you've experienced it firsthand, and it sounds like it was a really harsh experience. And I'm sorry you had to go through this. But the very strange thing is that Alain de Botton, a philosopher that I love, says the best people have been through the roughest patches. And learning this experience firsthand for yourself, from a very young age, actually. You're brilliant, but you're still very young, is a gift of life. Because how many people reach 50, 60 years old, go through the changes of retirement and have no tools of controlling their mind and controlling their body, which is literally mindfulness practices, meditation especially, and biohacking, the body and the mind. And they work together. Everybody wants to segregate them. It's impossible. There's now we talk about the vagus nerve all the time, but there's so many more that we probably will never find out about our life. And if you think about it 2 seconds, in even in the language, it's there for thousands of years. I can't stomach it. There's so many points, like expressions like this, or saying that actually explains all this nervous system that we will never have access to. About 20 years ago, everybody said that the nervous system was going through uh, the spinal nerve system, like this whole thing protecting your very fragile nerve coming from the brain, irrigating the rest of your body. Now we know it comes from various ways, and that we have neurons in the stomach, we have neurons in the heart. And yeah, I think your experience actually gave you 20 years of, you know, you're 20 years ahead of the rest of the planet because you went through this quite early on, too early on for, in my view, but that's good as well.
Okay. And one more question. Could you share a bit more about your personal meditation practice and also how it has evolved over time?
Wow, that's a long one. I'll try to make it shorter. So it starts um, at 17 years old. What I find interesting in life is that whether we judge ourselves or not for doing something, there are things that are like written in your body. Age 17, I was already interested in this, but it was not cool enough somehow. And I guess it meant too much responsibility and too much work. So 20 years later, when COVID hit the world, I already went through my own COVID 5, 10 years ago, and I was staring at people, realizing that they had no control of the mind. They felt like victims of circumstances and of their own understanding. Nobody wanted to take their own immunity in charge, which shocked me because I already went through my entire immunity reshaping 7 years before. And I felt like I was surrounded by children. I didn't want to judge them because I was there 10 years before. But my understanding truly was this is not how it works. And turning against each other, wearing a mask, blaming others for coughing, this is not how the human body ever worked. We're a host of thousands of different other genome and DNA inside our guts, inside our cells. And literally, Gundega, Vanessa, I'm not Gundega, we're about 2 to 5% of our DNA. We're just a great host of many other livings who actually shape our identity. We've discovered that lately about the fact that viruses shape our identity. Truly, you change viruses, you do a fecal transplant, sorry about the details, but your nature changes, your personality changes. It's pretty incredible. But yet, I was seeing all these people feeling like they were an entitled being and they had every right to be protected from others, and dismissing the connection between each other, not being, not having any solidarity, no understanding. And I was like, this is the opposite of how immunity works. And at that time, I was studying. And in France, it was one of the worst COVID that I've heard about. People were pegging against each other. And I was like, I can't do that. So I took my computer and I went in Thailand to do the same, finishing my studies. The whole world was closed anyway, so might as well. And this is where I realized that I wanted to become Buddhist. I was nearly 40. I wanted to understand, no, I was 40. I wanted to understand how this place that I always felt calm, peaceful, happy, this deliciousness that we're talking about. I mean, meditation is beautiful, but it's also a question of it's contagious. So when people are calm, you become calm. And this is where I decided to learn meditation. But that was the hardest thing, to be honest. My first 5 minutes were extremely difficult. I kept coming back every 5 seconds and I couldn't stay still. And it's been going up and down since then, but incrementally, like this, with drops all the time. And now, if I meditate less than 45 minutes, I'm not satisfied.
Okay.
And overall, we both, I think we're running out of time, but we both meditate twice a week together, which is always better. Again, meditation being contagious, when you meditate with others, it goes so much higher in terms of frequency and comfort. I meditate on my own, usually using the recordings of mind stories. I used to use Headspace for a very long time, but it's not my thing anymore. Headspace is fantastic for baby meditators. That's what we call everyone starting